Welcome back to StadiaSource.com, your number one source for Stadia news and reviews. My name is Avery, and today I want to spend a few minutes debunking the most common Stadia myths. If you are on Twitter or Stadia Reddit or Discord or any of the places where Stadia gets talked about, you, like me, have probably seen quite a bit of misinformation and misconceptions out there concerning Stadia, the platform, and so I wanted to take just a little bit to help break down some of those myths and reveal the truth. I'm going to be taking this from my article Debunking the Most Common Stadia Myths, posted on StadiaSource.com. You can read the full article there on Stadia Source. Let's get started. It should come as no surprise that on Stadia Source we're fans of Google's cloud gaming platform. Our entire job is to bring you, the viewers, the latest news on Stadia games and features, reviews of games released on the platform and how they play, streaming from the cloud, and engaging commentary through our podcasts and interviews. But despite the efforts of Stadia Source and the numerous writers, podcasters, and streamers in the creators community, there are a lot of Stadia myths that just seem to be highly persistent. I've collected the most common myths here and will attempt to debunk them to help provide clarity to the people who might be interested in giving game streaming a try, but are having a hard time cutting through the misinformation to really understand the platform. These myths are presented in no particular order. Myth number 1, you have to pay for Stadia subscription, Stadia Pro, or Stadia hardware to use the service. Arguably, the most prevalent myth concerning Stadia has to do with requiring Stadia Pro in order to play games on Stadia. I want to tackle this one front and center with a clear, resounding message. You don't have to pay for anything but the games if you don't want to. This myth persists for two reasons. First, back when Stadia initially launched in what many of us considered a closed beta state, you had to purchase a Founders or Premier kit from the Google Store in order to enjoy Stadia. Of course, that got you a controller and a Chromecast Ultra, so Google was setting you up to have a great experience from the start, but because there was still an investment required from the first moment, the promise of only buy the games wasn't available. The Buddy Pass system helped to debunk this, but still someone had to put money down in order to get anyone access to Stadia. Second, even at Stadia's full public launch this past spring, the emphasis was placed on getting a free trial of Stadia Pro to get access to the system. It wasn't clear then, and they've only begun to clear it up now, that all you really have to do is put a credit card down, click to buy the game, and start playing. And that's exactly all you have to do. If you see a game on Stadia that you want to play, such as Orcs Must Die 3, you can head to the Stadia store, click to buy it, and click to play it. You don't have to subscribe to Stadia Pro, though doing so gets you great benefits such as dozens of free games for the life of your subscription and higher resolution gameplay. You don't even have to own a Chromecast or a Stadia controller. If you have a computer screen with a mouse and a keyboard, you can play any game on Stadia. If you have a controller from another system and can hook that up to your Android phone via Bluetooth or cable, or your desktop or your laptop, you can play any game on Stadia. Let me say it again, you don't have to pay for anything but the games you want to play. Myth number 2, Stadia has no games or has only old games. Of the assorted myths that plague Stadia, this one has the slightest kernel of truth to it, but that kernel is very small, getting smaller, and founded in mismanaged expectations about how the system works. At the time of this video, Stadia has more than 6 dozen games playable today, and a couple dozen more already announced for the platform. Yes, the majority of these games are ports from other consoles or PCs, but let's look at some of the highlights of that list of ports. Destiny 2, PUBG, and The Elder Scrolls Online are 3 of the most popular online games on the market today, all of which continue to see releases. The Division 2, Borderlands 3, Metro Exodus, Red Dead Redemption 2, these are constantly found on the top games list from 2019. And there are more outstanding titles like Strange Brigade, Celeste, Octopath Traveler, Mortal Kombat 11, and more on the platform. And even more of the top titles from the past year like Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order are on their way to the platform. Stadia has also gotten or is scheduled to get both AAA titles and anticipated indie titles as well, right alongside their console or PC releases, from Doom Eternal to Marvel's Avengers to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The idea that Stadia has no games is only partially to blame because they have few games. There's no way that a platform that just launched a few months ago is going to have the library that consoles with backwards compatibility and a couple of decades of developer relationships is going to have. Creating a brand new game on a brand new platform takes time. Porting a game that is already done takes less time, and if you've never played the game before, a little bit more on that next, then it really doesn't matter if it's a year old or 10 years old. Myth number 3, you have to buy all your games again. This is one that I'd put in the myth conception bucket. Half myth, half misconception about how the platform works and really how gaming in general works. This springs forth from the notion that a significant portion of Stadia's available game library is comprised of ports of older games like Tomb Raider and Final Fantasy XV. Of course, if you've already purchased those games from somewhere else and wanted to play them on Stadia, well, you'd have to buy them again. But why is Stadia any different than any other platform in that regard? If you bought Celeste from the Nintendo eShop on your Switch and then sold your Switch to get an Xbox, if you wanted to play Celeste again on the Xbox, you'd need to buy the game again. If you bought Mortal Kombat 11 on PlayStation and you decided you wanted to play it on Steam, well, you'd have to buy it again. That's just how gaming commerce works. The Switch is actually a great example of a gaming platform whose library is rife with ports, but no one seems to give them the same level of criticism about having to buy Skyrim for the 14th time if you want to play it with the Joy-Cons instead. And no, Stadia doesn't have Skyrim yet, but they brought it to everything just short of the Apple Watch, so I'd be surprised if we don't get it at some point. Here's the key difference with Stadia. If you decide to buy The Crew 2 on Stadia and then you decide to stop playing on Stadia and go buy an Xbox, you don't lose Stadia. Your account is still there, your purchases are still there, and at any point in the future, you can just connect that Xbox controller to your phone or your PC and fire up The Crew 2 on Stadia again. Switching platforms just isn't a thing with Stadia. It can be your first platform or it can be your fourth, but you never walk away from it, you just close the tab for now. The other factor here is that if you've never played one of these games, it really doesn't matter if it came out somewhere first. Stadia makes an amazing second platform for most people, but for many, like me, it's become a first platform where we can play top games from the past few years that we've never had a chance to play. If you don't own an Xbox or PlayStation or powerful enough PC, it doesn't really matter that Assassin's Creed Odyssey is nearly 2 years old. Myth 4, you have to have an amazing internet speed or to play Stadia, or gameplay can be a stuttery, laggy mess. This particular myth is most common amongst people who have never actually tried Stadia, but instead have taken their opinion from clickbait videos that popped up early in Stadia's history. It's easy to say that Stadia is terrible and it won't work for you if you've never actually found out for yourself. As well, it's easy to see a handful of video of people having a bad experience and assume that you'll have the same bad experience, despite the fact that you aren't likely to be on their ISP, their devices, their modem, their router, their wiring, their Wi-Fi, their interference, or any of the other myriad of factors that will make your experience different from their experience. However, this really lays bare one of the challenges facing Stadia that they really haven't done a lot to address. The ability to play Stadia is really quite variable. I am confident that the vast majority of players will be able to hit go on any given Stadia game and have a great experience, but Stadia doesn't make that easy. In my opinion, Stadia would do themselves a tremendous favor if instead of a generic "Can I handle Stadia" page, which only tests ping and download speeds, they just embed a window where you can start playing 15 minutes of Grid or Doom Eternal, or any other game where you could be dropped into the middle of something and have a reasonably full-featured experience without knowing the controls. The crowdplay demos that streamers have recently done would be an excellent tool to let people try it for themselves. Set it up such that if you don't have the game, you get to play one round of Mortal Kombat 11 for free to see how it works, and then end the stream with a sign up now button, and boom, myth busted. Will there be people for whom Stadia won't work? Yes, of course there will be. If you rely on satellite internet or DSL, you're probably not going to have a great experience. If you have a large family where everyone is on at least 2 screens at any point in the day eating up bandwidth, you're probably going to experience some issues. And of course, you may be in a country where Stadia just isn't available. If any of those are the case, well, we're going to miss you, but enjoy your Switch or Xbox or PlayStation or PC. You'll still get to enjoy games and maybe maybe someday your circumstances will change to make Stadia work great for you. I can say from personal experience that I have played Stadia under just about every set of circumstances out there. I have enjoyed Assassin's Creed Odyssey on some of the worst airport Wi-Fi available in the nation. I've fired up Superhot in hotels, Borderlands 3 in bookstore cafes, and Monster Boy at my mother-in-law's house. Is it a pristine experience always? No. But the majority of the time, Stadia, which I'll remind you is literally streaming console-quality games to you like they were a cute cat video on YouTube, plays great. I've also got news for you. If you can't play Stadia, you're almost guaranteed not to have a good experience on xCloud, GeForce Now, or Shadow. No one has better infrastructure for the cloud than Google, save maybe Amazon. Yes, you might be in the sliver of folks who live closer to an Azure data center than a Google point of presence, but odds are good, if you can't play here, you can't play there. Myth 5. Developers aren't supporting the Stadia library. The Stadia library would like to have a word with anyone who buys this myth. Let's take a quick loop through just some of the developers and publishers who have games on the platform today or are actively working on them for release. The list includes 2K Games, Bethesda Softworks, Bungie, CD Projekt Red, Deep Silver, Devolver Digital, EA Sports, Eidos Interactive, Gearbox Software, id Software, Larian Studios, Rockstar Games, SNK Corporation, Square Enix, Ubisoft, Warner Bros. Interactive, and many, many more. Most of the top games available today come from these studios. The only notable exception is Activision Blizzard, who already partner with Google for cloud services, so it's just a matter of time. On the release schedule, we've already got Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Cyberpunk 2077, Watch Dogs Legion, the next Madden and FIFA games, and many more. Make no mistake, these are profit-minded companies who have chief financial officers who are signing off on the decision to divert developer resources from the juggernauts and move them to Stadia. There are executives with business and accounting degrees who see dollar signs when they look at Stadia. This isn't just a pet project, this is a revenue stream for these companies. If it were just one or two kicking the tires, I'd say Stadia was a toy they're playing with that might end up going somewhere. But these are the top game studios and publishers on the market today. Many of them make games that sell in the millions or tens of millions of copies. They're not going to burn hundreds of staff hours on a project that they think is just going to fizzle out, not when they could churn out another game for a money printer like the Switch. Finally, myth 6. Stadia is just going to end up in the Google graveyard. If you follow me on Twitter, you've probably seen my rants and ravings about the concept of the Google graveyard. Very few myths about Stadia and Google products on the whole annoy me as more as this trite little witty bon mot people drop into Twitter and Reddit threads decrying how awful is Google as a company because they close their products. Don't get me wrong, there are concerns to be had about the sheer overwhelming volume of data Google has on all of us, but the Google graveyard is just blatantly false. Consider this, your needs are changing and your family is growing, so you decide to buy a new, bigger, better house. You take the majority of your furniture, except that one side chair, you never liked that side chair, that end table that has the wobbly leg, and your old mattress. It's high time you upgrade to a king-size bed, and you move it into your new house. Is your new house exactly like your old house? No. Are there things about your old house that you might have even liked better than the new one? Sure. But your needs have changed. Your resources are different now, and you needed to move on so that your life could continue to work well. If you look at any of the list of products in the Google graveyard, you're going to find that the vast majority of them fall into that moved into a new house category. Does anyone remember calling 1-800-GOOG-411 for free directory assistance? That's in the graveyard now. Can't call it. Hasn't worked in years. Why? Because Google took the best parts of it, business detail lookup, voice recognition, and put them in search and the assistant and so forth. Remember Google Wave, real-time collaboration, and commenting is now a standard feature of Google Drive. How about Allo, just recently killed? Stickers, assistant, read receipts, they're all a part of the standard Messages app now. Google is a business. It's a software and services company. It has the right to iterate, innovate, and occasionally deprecate. Sometimes it's easier just to buy a new table than to try to fix the wobbly leg. Sometimes the mattress would do just fine for another couple of years, but you can have a better night's sleep on a brand new, bigger bed. Sometimes patching old bugs and building new scaffolding onto old architecture is a lot more work than just starting fresh on a new app. Are there some programs that were working just fine that they killed off? Yeah, RIP to Google Inbox. But that's their right. Google is a profit-making endeavor, not a charity. If they decide one day that Stadia has run its course and it's time to shut it down, that's gonna hurt. But there's no way I could deny that the literally 400 plus hours I've spent on Stadia so far haven't been worth the money I've put in. I've gotten my money's worth and then some. To those who decry the loss of access to their games, does it really matter that you can't play a game you bought 5 years ago and haven't touched in 4 anymore? Did you enjoy it when you had it? You might be saying, well, that's unacceptable to me. If I bought it, I should be able to play it forever. If that's you, enjoy your PC or Xbox or PlayStation or Switch. Stadia clearly isn't the right platform for you. But there are plenty of us who understand what we've signed up for and are fine with whatever might come down the road. Plus, as I mentioned before, Google usually just moves the best furniture to a new house. If they decide after 5 or 10 years that Stadia is dead, I'm going to be very excited for whatever they decide to do with the furniture. As awesome as Stadia is, whatever comes after it will be that much more incredible. I hope that this video has helped to bust some of the more prevalent myths about the Stadia platform. I also hope that if Stadia ever reads my article or watches the video, they'll consider doing a bit more work to bust these myths on their own. The recent turn away from the crazy hair, trippy music video style advertising towards simple, clean, direct promotion of the service says that they've started to hear this message and are making changes accordingly. I hope that they'll continue to listen and course correct as time goes on. Let us know what other Stadia myths you've encountered in the comments below. If you liked this video and it helped to clear up some of these myths for you, hit that thumbs up button below to let me know that you enjoyed it. And right beside there is a subscribe button. You can check out this article and all of our articles on stadiasource.com. For Stadia Source, my name is Avery. Have a good one.